The Daily Beast has an interesting article out about a roadblock to closing Guantánamo Bay. They say, quote, "The White House wants to quickly cut the number of detainees at Guantánamo Bay, but one man is standing in the way. President Obama's defense secretary, Ash Carter. The White House believes that Carter is unwilling to be accountable for the transfer of Guantánamo detainees and their conduct post-release, even to the point of defying the president's policy on the detention facility. Carter's signature is needed for the release of 52 of the 116 detainees cleared for leaving the detention facility by several government agencies that have reviewed their files." So that's incredibly important. They continue here and say, current law bars federal funds from being used to transfer Guantánamo Bay prisoners to American soil, meaning that the administration has to find foreign countries willing to take the detainees. The 52 cleared detainees have been approved for release through an extensive interagency process, which includes the Pentagon. So far, Carter has signed off on only a handful of detainees at one time and has waited weeks to act on those cases. Okay, so very, very important that you guys understand exactly what they're saying here. What they're saying is these people are not guilty. We have no evidence on them. We can't keep them locked up because they're not guilty. They're so not guilty, even the Pentagon is like, yeah, let them go. When the Pentagon is saying, yeah, you could let them go, my goodness, these must be the most not guilty people in human history. But the one guy that's standing in the way is Ash Carter, because in his mind, he thinks, well, since I'm the guy that has to sign off on these people, if any of them happen to do something fucked up from here on out, well, then they're going to pin the blame on me, and I can't live with that. So instead, he wants on his record, oh, that's the guy who continued to take away people's civil liberties and their rights and illegally detain them and unconstitutionally detain them. Pretty sure that's one of the worst things you could ever have on your record. So Obama is basically out of moves when it comes to trying to find a way to close Guantánamo Bay, except to, here's his last out, as outlined by the Daily Beast. They say he could veto the defense bill and then demand that he gets final say on who can be transferred from Guantánamo. So if he vetoes the defense bill and says, I will only sign it if/when you send it back to my desk, and you tweak a provision or you put an amendment in there that says it's no longer on Ash Carter in order to sign off to let these people go. It's on me, the President of the United States. So he can veto it and say, send it back with that provision, and then, you know, if he's strong enough and if he has enough spine, if he has enough backbone, well, then he may actually be able to get this through. Here's the only problem with that. Obama has previously threatened to veto the NDAA, which authorizes funding for Guantánamo Bay, and he didn't do it. So, in other words, it was sent to his desk, and he was huffing and puffing and saying, well, I refuse to sign a bill that funds Guantánamo Bay because I want it shut down, blah, 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 blah. And then when he thought nobody was looking, he's like, okay, yeah, let me sign this here. Yeah, we can go ahead and fund it. Nah, the big bad Republicans. Oh my God, they twisted my arm. What am I supposed to do? You're supposed to do what you said you were going to do. Veto it. You didn't veto it. So now it's the same thing. That's his last out, is he would have to veto it and tell them to make it so that he has the final word, and they're likely not going to do that. So we're in a position right now where the United States of America looks absolutely hideous. I mean, we've looked pretty bad starting from the Iraq War and moving forward. I mean, we even look bad just post-World War II with all of our interventions and whatnot. But it got really bad with the neocons and the Bush administration invading countries that didn't attack us, staying there, taking the natural resources, you name it. CIA torture, that's another thing that the rest of the world looks at it and they're like, you guys are the fucking criminals. You don't stand for freedom and democracy. You're the ones torturing people. You're the bad guys here. What's wrong with you? You don't realize that? So all that stuff is bad, and then now we got this on top of it. Now we have certain parts of our own government, certain agencies within our own government saying, yeah, these guys are not guilty, so like you can release them, dog. But other parts of the government are like, oh, I cannot do that. I'm afraid about what will happen to my reputation if I let them go. Your reputation is fucked right nowington, son. Do you not realize that? You're the one that's like, yeah, no trial, indefinitely detain them. Forget the Constitution, forget international law, forget rights, forget all that stuff. Irrelevant. Magna Carta my ass cheeks. Just keep them locked up because I'm worried about my own reputation. Again, like I said, that's an ironic thing to fear because your reputation is fucked up right now because of what you're doing. It's just because we're not talking about it right now does not mean that, oh, your reputation's in the clear, because the history books are going to look at you right in line with people like Dick Cheney and George Bush, who did horrendous things and didn't care about law, and they were the bad guys. The history books are going to look at you like that if you presided over holding innocent people in an extrajudicial scenario. So just because people aren't barking at you right now doesn't mean that the history books will view you favorably. If you were to release them, because again, there's no evidence that they're guilty, if you were to do that, well, then you actually would be making your reputation better. Because 50 years down the road, 100 years down the road, when they write about this in the history books, they're going to say, okay, well, President Obama needed this guy, Ash Carter, his signature to let go the remaining innocent people at Guantánamo Bay, and they finally stood up on principle, and at the time, the country may have been against it, but he did what was right constitutionally, and yes, we pat him on the back for that. The same way that if you look at somebody like Daniel Ellsberg, at the time, he was, oh my God, a pariah, a traitor, he's treasonous, this and that, because he released the Pentagon Papers, which documented our crimes in Vietnam. At the time, he caught shit, because they're like, oh my God, you don't love America. And then later on, people go, oh, no, wait, he was actually the right person, everybody else was wrong. He actually cared about transparency in government, and he cared about us doing the right thing and stuff like that. So I'm begging and pleading for Ash Carter to do the right thing here, but I won't hold my breath. So then it's on Obama to really grow a backbone and do the right thing, and again, I'm not going to hold my breath. Although on that one, it's more of a coin toss, because we've seen sometimes at the last minute he does the right thing. Hopefully he'll do it here.